Most of us take nature for granted. We don't think much about the trees all around us, for example. But if they were gone, it would be a disaster. They provide so many services, socio-economic and above all, environmental. Trees and forests are vital to the health of the planet, and we need to protect them. I am Chris Alems in Lagos, Nigeria, with a new edition of EcoAfrica. Here's what's coming up. Masai women in Kenya are learning new skills to help prevent forest loss. Why cork oak trees from Portugal are so popular. And threatened crocodiles, how locals in Ghana are saving their habitats. Our first report takes us to Uganda. Clean drinking water, a precious resource that can be hard to come by. And that's not just a problem in rural areas. From damaged boreholes in the countryside to polluted wells in the capital, digital and sustainable technology is helping improve people's access to safe water.
The tag turns the tap on. It gets inserted into the reader at this communal well in central Uganda, and the water flows.
It works like a mobile phone service. Can you make a phone call without credit on your phone? No, we have gotten used to it.
Software engineer Sevina Abdul Salam came up with the idea.
You carry the tag that is issued to you, you bring it to the water source, you insert it in a specific area. Then if there is credit, there is an internal valve, it will open. Then it will allow you to start fetching.
Villagers load their tag with mobile money via cell phone, getting up to 3,000 liters of clean water for the equivalent of about $1. The community agrees on the cost, which is supplemented with donations from the non-profit organization Sunda to maintain the wells. And there is an important psychological effect.
The fact that people always thought water is free, they abuse the water usage. You find a person, he needs only one jerrycan per se, but he doesn't care if that jerrycan falls and the water spills out. Okay? But whenever they realize there is value attached, like monetary value attached to that jerrycan, they could care more than earlier before to protect, like, you don't just allow the jerrycan to topple off.
Sunda's co-founder also uses the digital technology solution to monitor the state of the wells. He receives data in real time that shows if repairs are necessary, allows him to advise local authorities and monitor misuse. The International Institute for Environment and Development says that more than $360 million are wasted on poorly maintained wells in Africa. The pay-per-fetch system also ensures fairness and transparency.
From the government setting, every household, no matter how big the family is, you have to pay 2,000 shillings. So even if you are alone, you have to pay every month 2,000, which was not good for those small families. Not fair at all. So people were complaining. That's why some people could pay, others couldn't pay. But when we put a system, now everyone is fair paying.
Another initiative supports urban families. In many of the capital Kampala's poorer areas, people rely on wells like this one. But the water is often contaminated with fecal matter. Susan Nakabugo now uses a special jerrycan to disinfect the water for her 6 children. After about 4 to 6 hours in the sun, the ultraviolet rays and the high temperatures kill the germs in the water without it having to be boiled.
It was difficult for me to afford charcoal for cooking and boiling water every day. Sometimes my children would get sick from drinking unsafe water, contracting diseases like typhoid and diarrhea. But getting this jerrycan has been a relief. I purify all our drinking water with it.
Ian Calvin Waiswa donated the jerrycan. He co-founded Student Support and Philanthropy Program, a non-profit organization that encourages students to get involved in their communities. He obtained 1,000 canisters from a Swedish company. Some donated, some financed by his organization. According to UN Water, more than half of Uganda's 45 million inhabitants have no access to safe water supply. Waiswa has a plan for water pains on days when the sun doesn't shine. Then he encourages people to boil their water with fuels made with alternatives to wood. Susan Nakabugo uses briquettes made of organic waste in a stove donated by Student Support.
We are encouraging households that in the time that the sun is not existing, can you use these briquettes? And if possible, we are able to provide the fuel-saving stoves for you to be able to at least cut the consumption of charcoal by a great percentage in the absence of the sun. So this is a holistic solution that we are trying to promote, that in the end still promotes, without compromising the issue of sanitizing the water, still promotes the sanitizing of water, but also protects the environment.
These initiatives in rural and urban Uganda are bringing the country closer to its goal of clean water for all by 2030.
Now to Kenya and the forests of the Greater Mara. Nomadic cattle herders traditionally rely on this forest for water, shelter, and to feed their livestock. But drought is increasingly common, and the woods are also at risk from illegal logging. So Masai women from traditional cattle farming communities are expanding their skills to adapt to the changing times.
The Nyakweri Forest. This nature reserve in southwestern Kenya is under threat. Its greatest enemies are extreme weather conditions and deforestation. But there is hope. Local Masai women are helping look after it.
They've changed, they are powerful, and they can be able to manage it on their own. In fact, it's becoming a threat to the men. But it's good because at the same time it empowers the whole family and the whole community.
Things are different now. We were behind. We milked our cows and that's all we had. During drought, we would eat wild fruits and cook them for our children so that they don't go hungry.
Mama Lucy has
really helped the women, and she has helped us as well. For example, she and the women set up the first beehives here. Lucy Mulenke is Masai herself and grew up here. In 1996, she founded an environmental protection initiative with indigenous women. She has trained around 700 Masai women in the Nyakweri area so far. They learn new skills such as growing different types of vegetables in their own gardens, such as spinach and kale, and also about the need to protect the forest.
The rainfall is not coming as it used to. And so by training them and trying to give them why they should make sure that they protect the forest and also be able to have and not to burn charcoal as it used to be, because that was a big threat around here. It was really, and also logging, and the communities, neighboring communities cut the traditional trees, which are very important for firewood.
The Masai women traditionally welcome visitors with song. Landowner Shadrach Oleseyo gave the women land for the organization's resource center, which includes a demo farm. He was impressed by Lucy Mulenke's project and donated 5 acres, the equivalent of about 3 football pitches. I decided to give the women this piece of land because they came to my home and asked me if I could provide them with a place where they could develop their project. I decided to give them a section of my land. The women have also teamed up with the forest rangers in the conservation area. Here, they're monitoring the local pangolin population. They have also planted trees with the women and educated them about the importance of protecting the forests. Our forest has important wild animals, and we do not want to destroy it so that the animals disappear and eventually we lose our livelihood. We speak to the people working to protect the conservancy, and progress has been good. You can see that our land is less degraded. Although there were a few sections that were damaged, but we have been able to restore those sections back to how they were. Indigenous people make up just over 6% of the global population, but that 6% protect 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity. The women plant mainly native trees to help renew their forest. Cutting down trees has contributed to the problems. But in places that I've visited, I have seen that where people have planted trees, there is still enough rainfall. The women here have followed suit and planted more than 5,000 trees. If the harvest is poor, the women can now fall back on crafts they've learned to make themselves, such as traditional beaded jewelry and soap. By selling these products, they can keep their families afloat even during the dry season.
Remember, when you educate a woman, you are educating the whole world. So this is why we really like empowering them.
Here in Nyakweri, the Masai women are better off now that they have diversified their skills from farming to making jewelry. They are protecting the environment in the process, and crucially, they are also passing on their knowledge to their children.
Now we head to Europe and to Poland, home to the 2024 Tree of the Year. It came top in the annual contest that celebrates our relationship with nature. It's a magnificent red beech that looks pretty strong and has survived for 2 centuries. But it still needs a lot of looking after. That's where local conservationists come in. Here is this week's Doing Your Bit.
This tree in southwestern Poland has been a witness to history, including 2 world wars and a shifting of national borders. It stands in the Arboretum Wojsławice, near the city of Wrocław, and is called the heart of the garden. The copper beech, also known as a purple beech, is deeply rooted in the past. If it's European Tree of the Year, it has to be an exceptional tree, symbolic not only for Poland but for Europe. The idea behind the competition is to celebrate unusual trees, not necessarily the biggest, oldest trees, but ones with a story that tell us something. When the beech was planted at the start of the 19th century, its leaf color was a rarity that only a few could admire. 200 years ago, this tree was planted here. It didn't have green leaves, but purple ones. It was something quite extraordinary. People were amazed by it. That's why the oldest and most beautiful trees with purple leaves are found near castles, palaces, and manor houses. But mighty as it looked, the tree wasn't immune to disease. It fell victim to fungi. Little by little, year by year, large branches began to die. The arborists in the botanical garden refused to give up on their beech tree and prescribed a cure with a chainsaw. infected parts of the tree were cut off. The soil around the beach was improved. And slowly but surely, the tree is coming back to life. Thanks to their efforts, this national treasure can remain the heart of the garden for many years to come.
From a red beech tree in Poland to cork oak trees in Portugal, the country supplies a wide range of industries with this sustainable material. It's the only forestry industry where the trees are not cut down. And cork oaks also store large amounts of carbon during their lifetime. But these days, cork is so popular that farmers are having difficulty keeping up.
Cork harvesting in Portugal. It takes a practiced hand like Carlos Figueiras to harvest this valuable bark. Every summer he repeats the peeling process, just like his father and grandfather before him.
Very exhausting, very hot. The harvest is hard work. We have to be careful. If we injure the tree, it will scar badly. Take this wound, for example. Here, the tree no longer produces its bark.
Cork farming is a long-standing tradition here and important for the local economy. Portugal is the world's largest cork producer. The climate-friendly and renewable material is in higher demand than ever. For 60-year-old Antonio José Mateus, scurrying up the trees is no problem at all, even in the 35 degrees Celsius heat.
I've been doing this work every summer for 43 years. The season lasts 3 months. I can handle it. It's no trouble for me to be up here.
The slow-growing bark can only be harvested every 9 years. Antonio Gonçalves Figueira from the UNAC Forestry Association says that's why the material is so special.
When we look to a cork oak, we see it as our past and our future. Our history is here, from all the generations that has made it possible to be here today. In the future, because it protects the soils, it has a lot of biodiversity.
The harvested cork bark is sent to factories for further processing. It is heated, pressed, and, as shown here, cut into small slices for champagne corks, millions per day. One of Portugal's cork regions, and one of only a handful in the world, is Corucha. At this exhibition, the versatile material is showcased in all its glory. João Motins explains there's a lot more to cork than corks.
A rolha é cortada diretamente.
The cork is cut directly from the bark.
Não é? E consequentemente, todos os sobrantes dessa prancha.
The rest of the cork plank is then processed for insulation material, wall elements, or corks made from the granules.
Ou até mesmo para fazer rolhas em aglomerado.
At the University of Aveiro, Rui Miguel Novaes is working on sustainable building materials derived from cork. The material is light and elastic and could be an effective alternative to conventional synthetic materials, which, although efficient, are bad for the environment.
If we use cork instead of these materials, which are not renewable, and cork is, we are decreasing several orders of magnitude, not only the amount of energy that we require to produce cork, 20 times lower or more, and also the CO2 emission associated with the cork production.
In addition, cork is a good insulator and fire resistant. The trees evolved their unique bark to protect themselves against forest fires. Cork is used everywhere, even in NASA spacecraft.
For sure, we have a lot to learn from nature. I think it's the best guideline for our future, because we as humans tend to use all sorts of different materials to combine them together very efficiently, but then in nowadays, there is a huge problem connected with the recyclability of such materials.
Back on the cork plantation, the harvest is now well underway. But Carlos is worried, as fewer and fewer people are choosing to go into the profession.
It's difficult to find people these days. I like working here, just like my father before me. So I carry on. It's good for me. Out in the fresh air, not at a desk. Here we have all the freedom we need.
Business is booming, but cork production cannot be stepped up indefinitely. It takes up to 40 years before the bark of a young cork oak matures enough for harvest. When it comes to this climate-friendly material, good things certainly come to those who wait.
We return to Africa for our next report about a creature that definitely does know how to wait: crocodiles. Now, most people are afraid of these very patient primeval predators. They often doze all day in the water and then suddenly strike their prey at lightning speed. But in Paga town, northern Ghana, crocodiles are considered sacred and locals are worried about their health.
This is Paga, a town in northern Ghana. If you want to wake the souls of the dead, you need to bring a live chicken. According to the legend, the souls of the ancestors live on inside the crocodiles lurking in the village pond. They're actually a surprisingly friendly bunch.
If you talk to it, it will hear you. They hear language. If it is moving and you ask it to lay down, when it goes anywhere and you call it back, it will obey. It won't move again.
More than 100 crocodiles live in the pond. Some of them are at least 80 years old, but despite their venerable status, they're not doing well. The pond is full of plastic waste, and it's also drying up. Isahaku Mahama has been bringing tourists here for a long time. They come to see the tame crocodiles. The visitors bring in a lot of revenue for the town. But Mahama says things are changing.
In those days, there were a lot of trees around here, but because there were no houses around, due to that, there was enough trees, and then the place was so bushy, and then you can see the environment green. But now, because of the climate change, and then at the same time, the people encroaching the lands, so it makes the place to change like this.
Suleimana Alidu is also worried about environmental degradation. Whenever he has time, he collects garbage around the pond. He doesn't want his ancestors to have to swim in plastic waste, and a clean pond is healthier for the crocodiles.
If you don't remove the plastic waste, the crocodile will think it is food, and it will swallow it.
If you chop them, they will disturb him.
Plastic waste isn't the only problem. More and more houses and factories are being built directly around the pond. These once pristine babbling brooks have turned into rivers of waste. And the water doesn't always reach the pond because it gets used for other purposes, like irrigating crops. Even these last green oases are now under threat. The population is growing and needs space, a good business model for some.
Our chiefs know, like they have tried several times to sell this land, and they stopped them. So I still have that feelings. Maybe one day we may lose here, because here is very important to us. So we are afraid to lose here, seriously.
Then there's climate change. It's getting hotter and hotter, and there's little rain. Another reason that there's less and less water in the pond. Residents here want to prevent the worst, although their resources are limited.
In those days, they used to fetch the water for domestic purpose, built in the community. But now we put ban on that. You cannot come in and fetch water and send it to the community.
The souls of the dead would be grateful to their descendants if the pond is preserved. And the survival of the Paga crocodiles is an important symbol of biodiversity preservation in Ghana, which has already lost more than 40% of its wetlands.
What amazing creatures they are. If you liked that story, or if you'd like to see us reporting on a particular environmental issue, then please write to us at eco@dw.com. Would love to hear from you, or love to hear what you think. For now, it's goodbye from me, Crystal Lamps in Nigeria. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to head to EcoAfrica online for more inspiring stories. See you all again next week.